Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm so happy to be here and be doing this with all of you. I'm just happy to be alive. Bruno Groening pointed out that health and wellness is natural. That's the way we were made. And as individuals and as the human race moved away from what's natural and good a long time ago, and we're all slowly but surely finding our way back. Hello, Melanie. What an interesting idea that to feel good and to be healthy is natural, that's how God designed us. So let's return to our design. Like we did this little experiment, we tried the whole not follow God, not live in harmony with nature. Like, okay, a scientist proposes a hypothesis. Like the human hypothesis was maybe something like, we don't need God, or we don't need nature. And then, in the scientific method, you design a way to test that hypothesis and then you get the results. And Bruno Groening said that human beings listened to a voice outside of the unity and acted on it. So that was the experiment, and the results are in, both collectively and individually. So, done with that experiment, let's turn around. The German word for that's translated as turnaround, I think it's Umkehr. I'm probably mispronouncing it. It means reversal, turnaround, complete change. Headed in one direction, like a fundamental change. And that's what Bruno called us as individuals and called the human race, to make just a complete change, to a complete different reorientation of life, a life oriented towards God and a life oriented towards living in harmony with nature. I can't say that I have come anywhere near perfecting either. But thanks to Bruno Groening and his very simple teachings, his spiritual help, and his spiritual teachings, I feel like I've made progress in both. So, thank you, Arcantor. A U-turn. Bruno Groening called us to the great U-turn. I didn't realize that was one of the meanings, but that's it. I've always said in English we say a 180. Like you're going this direction and you turn 180 degrees. Let's see. You're going this direction and you turn 180 degrees and go that direction. A U-turn. Bruno Groening called us to the great Yui. In America, we call U-turns Yuis. Oh, love it. Thank you. So, part of the great Yui is to realize that evil is no good. That, as Bruno said, nothing good comes from evil. So let's recognize that evil, as Bruno said, evil has debased us, that we don't want anything to do with it anymore. Firmly separate ourselves from everything not good. Hand it over to Bruno Groening. Hand it over to God. Offering over fear, worry, resentment, illness, any life situations that we're stressed about. I'm starting to realize stress is nothing other than lack of trust in God. Or I should say, the results of lack of trust in God. So, we've separated ourselves from evil, we've handed over our burdens. When you're ready, please close your eyes. Think of something that makes you joyful. A scene in nature, a good friend, a good animal friend. My good animal friend is sleeping on the bed right behind my computer. And then begin to observe the body, having the will, the intention to take in good energy, having the will, the intention to be connected to God and freed from all evil. Observing the body, taking in this good energy. Noticing what you feel, taking in the good. Having the will to receive. Having the intention to become free from everything not good. And trusting that that will happen, and trusting God's timing. And trusting any situations, anything that we're worried about, trusting it in Bruno's hands or in God's hands. Someone the other day said to me, if I do the next right thing and leave the result, if I do the next right thing, can God handle the results? Meaning, if I just do what I think is best, and does God have it handled? Like my part is to do what I think is best, the results are up to God. That sounds like active faith to me. I was very grateful to the person who told me about that. Welcome, one and all. Thanks to everyone for joining in. Welcome to Arkantor for, welcome to Arkantor, but thank you to Arkantor for this new translation of the Great Turnaround, the Great U-Turn. Love it. So, Bruno said, I can't remember the exact words, but in essence, he said that when a human being, and this may be almost the exact words, when a human being recognizes how evil has debased them, then God will help them. It's like we need to understand what evil is and how it's harmed us before that's just part of the process. And I kind of wonder, I was like, why is that part of the process? And Bruno Groening once said, with a single word, I could heal every person in this town. But wouldn't that be a tragedy? Wouldn't that be more, and I'm paraphrasing here, wouldn't that be more harm than good? Because many of them would just go out and do more evil. If I'm sick, or if someone else is sick, according to Bruno Groening, it's because they've done evil in some way, shape, or form. And that's the illness is both a consequence and a lesson. And if the person doesn't learn the lesson from the illness and then they get healed, they'll just go out and do more evil. And so, in some ways, if I understand Bruno correctly, an illness actually prevents someone from doing more evil. Like, let's say and again, evil isn't just robbing and raping and stealing and killing. Like we think of those as like the big, evil is going around being angry, being unkind, being greedy, just anything that's not harmonious, anything that's not healthy. So, pardon, I just lost my train of thought. One moment. So so evil is just anything that's not harmonious. So I was feeling very inspired, and mid sentence, the thought came to me, oh, let me take a peek and see if anyone has written a comment. Like that, when I've started just looking at a picture of Bruno as I'm talking, and then every now and then I look at a picture of a comment, to just so I can respond to people's comments. And so that's how evil operates. Like that's not a healthy thought. I'm feeling inspired. I'm, sharing some teaching and really feeling like, oh, I'm really on a roll. I'm really understanding and I'm hopeful and communicating something that's helpful to me, and hopefully it's helpful to someone else. And a thought appears, why don't you look and see if anyone has made a comment? And so I didn't do what Bruno said to do, which is want to check in with each thought. I was like, okay, I just said yes to it without thinking. And then I got distracted and lost my train of thought. So evil isn't just like this, big, big horrific acts. It's any act that's not, it's any thought or any action that's not harmonious. So let's sit with all this a little bit, really connecting to God and asking to understand what is this thing Bruno Groening called bosse. Bruno never used the word evil. He didn't speak English. Or, maybe he spoke a word or two, I don't know. But Bosse in German means nastiness, viciousness, evil. It has this connotation of mm, something like on the attack, you know, something really um, that's out for blood, out for destruction. So let's really have a strong connection to God through faith and trust and observe our body, taking in the good, noticing what we feel, and asking to really understand how evil has debased us. That's what Bruno Groening said. He said, again, it's not, I don't have the exact words, but it almost that when a person realizes how evil has debased him, God will help him. God will help him overcome that evil. But first, we have to understand what caused the problem. Taking in the good energy, feeling very connected to God, and observing the body. As Bruno said, welcoming the peaceful quiet. Hmm. Arcantor wrote, illness is I don't, a task and a warning to finally make the U-turn back to God. Um, I'm not sure if Bruno ever said anything like that. Um, first of all, I haven't read everything that Bruno said. Um, yeah, I don't know what to say to that. Bruno spoke of Bruno once said, "Why you've come to me because of the evil," meaning because of people got sick and tired of all the different forms of evil. So in that sense, but I don't know that he ever called illness a task, and that I don't resonate with. A warning, I kind of resonate with. Maybe wake up call. But Bruno spoke of, Bruno said this was a school of life, that life was a school. And so my understanding is that illness would be more of a lesson than a warning. Mm. Mm. Yeah. So let's see. Just one moment, there's some background noise. Silence for a minute. There's a lot of noise right now. Taking in the good. Okay. So, Arcantor, if you would hold off on commenting anymore. So, I don't believe that Bruno ever said illness was a task. And if I'm wrong, please, I don't know everything about Bruno, but that doesn't feel accurate to me. Um, and then you wrote these habits would make you sick again. Oh, okay. I miss. Okay, beautiful. If you ever want to quote Bruno, please do. Um, he said, "I can make you healthy, but I can't change your habit." Thank you. These habits would make you sick again. Therefore, it is a task to change bad habits. Thank you. That's very helpful. Hmm. So that's very very helpful. So Bruno could that goes back to what I said, which or the quote I said earlier. Bruno's. He's like, I can heal every person in the city with one word, but wouldn't that be more of a tragedy than a good thing? Because um, they would go about doing more evil. So, and if this what Arcantor just shared, I can make you healthy, but I can't change your habit. These habits would make you sick again. Therefore, it's a task to change bad habits. Thank you. Quotes of Bruno's are always welcome here, by the way. So, illness doesn't happen for no reason. There's this, so many people have lost faith in God because bad things happen to them, because they haven't been presented with the spiritual teaching, which is very common in the East. But even so, I'm sure people struggle with it in the East, that what goes around comes around. As Bruno said, that you reap what you sow. So Bruno said he had the ability to just make illness vanish, but he didn't have and he has the ability to help people change their habits as a friend and as a guide. But he, in many different ways, and here's a beautiful quote, and thank you for that quote. Um, the actual that we have a part in our work, we have a part in the healing process, and that's changing what caused the illness. Thank you. I'd never heard that quote of his. Bruno said the sickness has to be unloaded first to make room for health. And then tying that in with um, let's see. I'm let's see, just got distracted again. Um, so Arcantor wrote, therefore he could not heal a person against the person's will if there was an inner blockage due to the habits. That feels just, it's like So I'm gonna have to. So that feels like partially true and partially not true because Bruno, yeah, there's just a lot there. So I'd rather, yeah, I'm just gonna let that go and just say, from my understanding of Bruno Groening's teachings, um, that's partially true. And I'm gonna go back to what I was saying. So the sickness has to be the sickness has to be unloaded first to make room for health. So so there's kind of this nuts and bolts of healing and of life that that Bruno Groening kind of broke down for us, kind of explained. Part of it is what we've been looking at, that illness doesn't happen for no reason, and um, and then part of it is, again, thank you, Arcantor, for that beautiful quote. And part of it is that if an illness gets lifted and we don't shift the habits, we'll just recreate that illness or another one. And then here Bruno said, if the illness has to be unloaded first to make room for health. And this is really fascinating to me. Um, it's almost as if the illness takes up a certain amount of space. I don't know if Bruno meant that literally or figuratively, but he was adamant that people had to hand over the illness, not dwell on the illness, and be willing to have the illness removed. Now, you might say, be willing to have the illness removed. What on earth does that mean? And this is where um, yeah, I got this from an interview of an eyewitness. Well, that's the thing. Is this the eyewitness's view, or is this a quote of Bruno's? And that's and so I really like, this isn't a discussion meeting. I don't claim to be perfect by any means, and um, yeah. So let's carry on this. I'll drop by your YouTube page, and we can carry on this dialogue someplace else. So, so someone may want to have an illness gone, and this is where I'm disagreeing with what was said here. However, they may have an underlying motive to hold on to the illness. Bruno gave an example of this. There was a woman who was handicapped, and she's like, "Oh, I want to get better. I want to." She wasn't able to walk, I think. And please, Bruno. And on the surface, she wanted, and in moments wanted, the illness gone. However, Bruno pointed out that underneath it, she had a fear of letting go of the illness, because then, not so much a fear, but she had thoughts like, and they may not even have been fully conscious, but she had thoughts like, oh, well, if I'm not in the wheelchair, then I'll have to take care of myself, and these people won't be waiting hand and foot on me. So she had this attitude that was interfering with the healing. So we can want healing, but then we have to get at the causes, which again was the first thing that Arcantor put, or the second. That if Bruno just lifted a particular illness, but not the habits, um, that we would just get sick again. Okie dokie. Very live. This is a live happening. So let's see. Let's take a little time and reflect on all this, continuing to take in good energy, noticing what you feel. The reason why I'm hesitant, it's like, did Bruno say it or did someone say it about Bruno? Because many people say that Bruno Groening was against money when that's actually not true. I've read, a direct quote of Bruno saying, from a spiritual point of view, money is neutral. It's the energy it picks up. And Bruno Groening said, here's a quote from Bruno Groening: as far as God is concerned, man can become rich here on this earth, but it should not be his only aim. So that's what Bruno Groening said, but it's a very popular idea in the Bruno Groening world that Bruno Groening was against money. And in fact, an eyewitness who met Bruno Groening and experienced a healing said, oh, yes, he didn't like money at all. And I don't think that's accurate. So that's why I try and just stick with direct quotes. Um, yeah. All right. So let's take in the good. And the bottom line is these teachings are just to get us to the point where we can directly know the truth. So we don't have to rely on Bruno Groening quotes and we don't have to rely on eyewitnesses. Those are things to get us there. And I'm in the same boat. Is I'm not an enlightened, perfected master. So I lean on the quotes of Bruno Groening and I lean on eyewitnesses. And Bruno Groening's, I believe, everything he said and did was to help free us from evil and get us connected to God so that we don't have to be dependent on, and even meetings. I offer these meetings and I go to different spiritual gatherings and Bruno Groening gatherings. I'm leaning on them until the point where I don't need any of these things. So let's take in the good. Noticing what you feel. Having the intention to take in the good and be free from not good, what's not good, and have the intention to be connected to God and so that we can know the truth directly. Bruno Groening said, if you observe your body, the truth will reveal itself inside you. Taking in the good, noticing what you feel. Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to meditate and dialogue and Arcantor and I can dialogue elsewhere. There's just something about this statement. He could not heal a person against the person's will. Like I don't. But anyway, we'll dialogue further, and the essence of it is in line with what Bruno Groening said. Is he's I won't steal from me. You have to give me your illness. Um, but anyway, I'll have a dialogue and post more on it. It feels mostly true, and then something doesn't feel accurate about it, and we'll get to the truth. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and we'll be doing this again real soon. And I wish you a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. Take care. Much love.